Whatever you think is about to happen, think again. They told her she was walking away with nothing. They told her she was finished. But what happens when silence isn't a sign of defeat, but a countdown to a detonation? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a story that redefines revenge, not through anger, but through absolute, crushing success. It's titled, She Walked Out of the Divorce. Hearing quietly, and moments later entered a billionaire's jet. If you enjoy stories about turning the tables, finding your power, and shocking the world, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Judge Harrison adjusted his spectacles, the fluorescent lights overhead, humming a low, irritating drone that seemed to be the only sound in the universe. On the other side of the mahogany table sat Stephen Klein. He wore the navy blue suit Emma had picked out for him 3 years ago, back when she still believed his potential outweighed his narcissism. He was tapping a gold pen against his legal pad. Tap, tap, tap. It was a rhythm of victory. Mr. Klein is awarded full ownership of the Klein Gallery and the marital estate in the Hamptons, the judge droned, his voice devoid of sympathy. Ms. Stewart is to receive the stipulated settlement of $50,000 as per the prenuptial agreement and retains ownership of her personal vehicle and clothing. $50,000 for 10 years of marriage, for 10 years of building Stephen's reputation from a chaotic mess into one of the premier art dealerships in New York. The spectators, mostly mutual friends who had quickly chosen the side of money, shifted in their seats, casting pitying glances at Emma. Sophie Wright, Emma's lawyer and oldest friend, stiffened beside her. Sophie's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. She had fought tooth and nail to invalidate the prenup, arguing coercion, arguing intellectual property theft, but Stephen had buried them in paperwork and high-priced legal sharks. "Your Honor," Sophie began, her voice tight. "My client contributed significantly to the valuation of the court has ruled, Miss Wright," the judge interrupted, slamming the gavel. It sounded like a gunshot in a canyon. Session adjourned. Stephen stood up immediately. He didn't look relieved. Relief implies worry, and Stephen had never been worried. He looked bored. He buttoned his jacket and walked over to where Emma sat, still motionless. "I told you, Em," Stephen whispered, loud enough for his lawyers to hear, but soft enough to sound intimate. "You were never cut out for the big leagues. You should have taken the first offer. Now look at you." Emma finally looked up. Her face was pale, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe, simple bun. Her eyes, usually a warm hazel, were flat like unpolished stones. She didn't blink. She didn't cry. There was no shaking, no screaming, no overturning of tables. "Goodbye, Stephen," she said. Her voice wasn't weak. It was hollow. Stephen scoffed, turning to his lead attorney, Robert Meyer, a man whose smile looked like a jagged scar. "Pathetic," Stephen muttered. "She's in shock." "Let's go celebrate," Robert said, clapping Stephen on the shoulder. "Lunch at Le Bernardin?" "Definitely." They swept out of the room, a phalanx of expensive wool and cologne, sucking the oxygen out of the space. Sophie turned to Emma, tears actually welling in her own eyes. "Emma, I am so sorry," Sophie whispered, grabbing Emma's hand. "We can appeal. It will cost money, but I'll do it pro bono. We can't let him get away with the Cézanne attribution. We can prove you did the work." Emma squeezed Sophie's hand. The pressure was firm, surprisingly strong. "No appeal, Sophie." "What? You're going to let him keep the millions? He's going to erase you from the history of that gallery." Emma stood up. She smoothed the skirt of her charcoal dress. It was an old dress, one she bought 5 years ago. It fit her perfectly. She picked up her leather portfolio, the only thing she had brought into the courtroom. "He can have the gallery," Emma said, her voice dropping an octave, losing the hollow quality and gaining a sudden, terrifying steeliness. "He can have the house. He can have the fake friends." "Emma, what are you talking about?" Emma leaned in close to her friend. "Do you remember the Ghost of Vienna case we studied in law school? The one about the asset that didn't technically exist?" Sophie frowned. "Vaguely." "Why?" "Stephen thinks he won the war because he captured the castle," Emma said, a small ghostly smile touching her lips. "He forgot to check the foundation." "Emma, you're scaring me." "Go home, Sophie. Open the bottle of wine I sent to your office. Don't call me for 48 hours. "Where are you going?" Sophie demanded, as Emma turned toward the heavy oak doors. "You don't have anywhere to go. Your apartment lease is up tomorrow." Emma didn't look back. She pushed the doors open, stepping out into the harsh, sterile hallway of the courthouse. The silence she left behind was heavy, confusing, and thick with unsaid words. She walked past the cameras waiting for Stephen. She walked past the reporters, hungry for a soundbite of the scorned ex-wife. She walked with a cadence that didn't suggest defeat. It suggested a schedule. The heat outside the courthouse was oppressive. It was a blistering July afternoon in Manhattan, the kind where the asphalt radiates waves of distortion and the city smells of hot metal and exhaust. There were no clouds to offer respite, just a relentless, blinding sun. Emma didn't hail a cab. She didn't walk toward the subway. She walked 2 blocks east, turned a corner into a loading zone, and stopped. 30 seconds later, a black sedan with tinted windows so dark they looked like voids pulled up to the curb. There were no plates on the front. The back door opened before the car had come to a complete stop. Emma slid inside. The door thudded shut, sealing her in a cocoon of conditioned air and silence. "You're late," a voice said from the front passenger seat. "The judge liked the sound of his own voice," Emma replied, tossing her portfolio onto the empty seat beside her. She didn't look at the speaker. She began unpinning her hair, letting it fall around her shoulders, shaking out the stiffness of the courtroom. The driver, a man with a neck as thick as a tree trunk, merged seamlessly into traffic. They weren't heading to a hotel. They were heading to Teterboro Airport. "Did he take the bait?" the voice asked again. This time, the man in the front turned around. It was Paul Schneider, a security specialist whose resume was mostly redacted black lines. He had a scar running through his left eyebrow and eyes that missed nothing. "He took it all," Emma said, pulling a compact mirror from her purse. She wiped off the pale, matte lipstick she had worn for the grieving wife. Act and applied a bold, crimson shade. The gallery, the Hamptons estate, and the inventory list. The inventory list with the modifications. "With the modifications," Emma confirmed. He was so busy gloating over the bank accounts, he didn't bother to have Robert Meyer cross-reference the acquisition dates on the modern art collection. He thinks he owns 12 Basquiats. He owns 12 very expensive receipts for paintings that are currently sitting in a storage facility in Zurich, under a shell company he has no access to. Paul chuckled, a dry sound. "Mr. Fisher will be pleased." "Mr. Fisher better be ready," Emma said, snapping the compact shut. "I just officially made myself homeless for this." The drive to Teterboro was a blur. Emma watched the skyline recede. That city had chewed her up. It had watched her work 18-hour days to build Stephen's empire, only to label her a gold digger when she asked for her fair share. She felt a phantom pain in her chest, the residue of heartbreak she had suppressed for months. She had loved Stephen once, but Stephen loved only reflection. When the car rolled onto the tarmac, the heat hit the windows again. Sitting there, gleaming like a silver bullet against the blue sky, was a Gulfstream G700. The engines were already spooling, a high-pitched whine that vibrated in Emma's teeth. Standing at the bottom of the stairs was Adam Fisher. The tabloids called him the silent billionaire. Technology, rare earth metals, logistics. Adam owned pieces of everything but put his name on nothing. He was tall, wearing a linen shirt, with the sleeves rolled up and dark sunglasses. He looked nothing like Stephen. Stephen was polished, soft, manicured. Adam looked like he had been carved out of granite and left out in a sandstorm. Emma stepped out of the car. The wind whipped her hair across her face. She pulled it back, marching across the tarmac. The heat radiating off the concrete burned through the soles of her shoes. Adam didn't smile. He checked his watch. "You cut it close, Miss Stewart," he said, as she reached the stairs. His voice was a deep baritone, rougher than she expected. "I had to wait for the gavel, Mr. Fisher," she replied, not breaking stride. She walked right past him and up the stairs. "Unless you wanted your new lead consultant to be arrested for contempt of court before we even took off." Adam turned, watching her ascend. A flicker of amusement appeared behind his sunglasses. He followed her up. Inside, the jet was a palace of cream leather and walnut wood. But the tables weren't covered in champagne and caviar. They were covered in schematics, satellite photos, and financial dossiers. This wasn't a pleasure cruise. It was a war room. Emma sat in one of the captain's chairs, throwing her bag down. She looked at Adam as the door sealed shut, cutting off the noise of the outside world. "Destination?" she asked. "Monaco," Adam said, taking the seat opposite her. "The gala is in 48 hours, and according to my sources, the item Stephen thinks he's selling doesn't exist. But the buyer is very real and very dangerous. And that's why you hired me," Emma said, her eyes locking with his. "Because I'm the only one who knows how Stephen cooks his books." "No," Adam corrected her. He leaned forward, pouring a glass of sparkling water and sliding it toward her. "I hired you because you're the only one who can spot a forgery painted by the master forger, known as the architect. Because you're the one who taught him." Emma went still. The air in the cabin shifted. "I didn't teach him," she said softly. "I caught him. There's a difference." "We'll see," Adam said. The plane lurched forward, gaining speed. "Welcome to the team, Emma. Try not to die." The G700 climbed rapidly, piercing the atmosphere until the sky turned a bruised purple. Emma stared out the window, watching the East Coast vanish. She should have felt fear. She was flying to a foreign country with a man she barely knew to intercept a deal involving dangerous criminals days after ending her marriage. Instead, she felt the first deep breath she had taken in years. "Comfortable?" Emma turned. Adam had removed his sunglasses. His eyes were a startling, piercing grey. He was studying a tablet, but his attention was clearly on her. "I've been sleeping on a pull-out couch in my lawyer's office for 3 months to avoid giving Stephen the satisfaction of seeing me struggle," Emma said. "This is fine." "Stephen Klein," Adam mused, swiping on the screen. "A man who thinks Provenance is a town in France. How did you stay with him for 10 years? Emma picked up the glass of water. "It didn't start that way. He was charming, passionate, and I was a 22-year-old art history grad student with a mountain of debt and a talent for seeing details no one else saw. He gave me a canvas to work on. I built the back end of the gallery. I created the authentication protocols. I made him legitimate." "And then he started taking shortcuts," Adam finished. "Then he met Robert Meyer," Emma corrected. "Meyer isn't just a lawyer. He's a fixer for the grey market. He introduced Stephen to private buyers who didn't care where the art came from, as long as it looked good on their walls. Stephen got addicted to the easy money. I tried to stop it. He isolated me, gaslit me, told everyone I was unstable, jealous of his success. And the forgery? Adam asked. The architect? Emma hesitated. This was the dangerous part. This was the secret that could send her to prison if she wasn't careful. 5 years ago, a Vermeer appeared on the market, the concert at twilight. Stephen bought it for $4 million, sold it for 20. I authenticated it. I staked my professional reputation on it. And 6 months ago, I found a receipt for chemical pigments that didn't exist in the 17th century. It was hidden in Stephen's private ledger. The painting was a fake, a perfect, impossible fake. The brush strokes, the cracking pattern, the lead tin yellow. It was masterful. The only person capable of that level of deception is a ghost. Intelligence agencies call him the architect, because he builds the history of the painting before he paints it. Adam nodded slowly. And now, Stephen is about to sell another discovery, a lost Da Vinci sketch, the Weeping Saint. It's going to be fake, Emma said with certainty. Stephen is desperate for cash. He over-leveraged the gallery to buy out his competitors. He needs a $50 million injection. He's commissioned the architect again. Here is the problem, Adam said, standing up and walking to a large monitor on the bulkhead. He tapped a key, and an image appeared. It was a rugged, terrifying man with a shaved head and a tailored suit. This is Viktor Volkov, Russian energy oligarch. He is the buyer. If he finds out he bought a fake, he won't sue Stephen. He'll kill him, Emma whispered. He will kill everyone involved, Adam said calmly, including the authenticator. And since you are technically still the lead historical consultant for the Klein Gallery on paper, until the paperwork is filed next week, your name is on the preliminary authentication documents Stephen sent to Volkov. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. He forged my signature? He did. He needs your credibility. You're the innocent face. If the deal goes south, you're the fall guy. Or the dead guy. Emma stood up, pacing the narrow aisle. The rage she had suppressed in the courtroom flared up, hot and bright. Stephen wasn't just stealing her money. He was spending her life. So what is the plan? She asked, turning to Adam. We go to Monaco, storm the auction, and shout, fake? No, Volkov would shoot us for embarrassing him. We have to prove it to Volkov before the money changes hands. But we have to do it in a way that leaves him a way to save face. Adam paused, a ruthless smile touching his lips. And we need to steal the fake. Steal it? If Stephen doesn't have the painting, he can't sell it. He breaches contract. The deal collapses. He owes Volkov a penalty he can't pay. Stephen is ruined. You are safe. And you? Emma asked, narrowing her eyes. What do you get out of this? You're not a charity service for scorned wives. Adam looked at the map on the screen. Volkov has something I want. Information on a cobalt mine in the Congo that utilizes slave labor. Mines I'm trying to shut down. If I save him from a $50 million embarrassment, he owes me a favor. Emma stared at him. It was transactional, cold, efficient, and strangely noble, or perhaps just a different kind of ambition. It didn't matter. It was a lifeline. I can't steal a painting, Emma said. I'm an accountant and an historian. I don't rappel down elevator shafts. That's what Paul is for, Adam said, nodding toward the cockpit where the security specialist was currently co-piloting. You are the eyes. You have to identify the flaw. The architect is perfect, Emma, but you said you caught him once. You need to find the mistake in the Da Vinci, without touching it, from across a room. There's always a mistake, Emma murmured, her mind already racing through Leonardo's drafting techniques, the silver point oxidation, the paper grain. Hubris. The better the forger, the more they want to leave a signature. A tiny, invisible middle finger to the experts. "Find it," Adam said. "We land in Nice in 6 hours. From there, we take a helicopter to Monaco. You need a wardrobe change. You look like a defendant." "I look like a woman who just lost everything," Emma corrected him. "Good," Adam said softly. "Keep that look. It makes you invisible. And right now, invisibility is your greatest weapon." Emma sat back down. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back wasn't the broken wife from the courtroom. She was a hunter. "One question," Emma asked. "How did you know about the divorce hearing? The timing? The specific exit door?" Adam didn't look up from his files. "I've been watching the Klein Gallery for a year. I knew the moment you stopped signing the quarterly reports. I knew the moment the quality of the acquisitions dropped. I knew you were the magic. Stephen Klein is just the magician's assistant." Emma felt a flush of heat that had nothing to do with the temperature. For 10 years, she had screamed to be heard. This stranger had heard her silence. "Let's get to work," Emma said, opening her portfolio. "If we're going to take down my husband, we need to talk about the paper trail." Adam smiled. It was genuine this time. Music to my ears. The helicopter ride from Nice to Monaco was a blur of azure water and jagged coastlines. But the destination had changed. A mid-air call from Paul Schneider had rerouted them. The auction wasn't in Monaco. That was a decoy. The real exchange was happening in Vienna, in the private vault of the Palais Festel. Vienna. The city of music, imperial dreams, and spies. They touched down on a private strip just outside the city limits as dusk began to bleed into the sky. The air here was cooler than New York, crisp and smelling of pine and old stone. "Stephen is paranoid," Adam said, as they transferred into a waiting armored Mercedes. "Moving the location at the last minute means he knows someone is watching, or Meyer is getting nervous." Emma adjusted the collar of the coat Adam's team had procured for her. It was a striking, midnight blue trench coat made of cashmere, belted tight at the waist. Underneath, she wore a sleek black evening gown. She looked every inch the European heiress, distinct from the frantic New Yorker she had been hours ago. "Meyer doesn't get nervous," Emma said, staring at the passing Baroque architecture. "He gets aggressive. If they moved to Vienna, it's because Meyer has a judge here in his pocket, or a vault he trusts." "We have 3 hours until the viewing," Paul Schneider said from the front seat. He was checking a Glock 19, sliding it into a holster beneath his jacket. "Mr. Stewart, your ID for the evening is Countess Elena Varga, Hungarian nobility, reclusive collector. You have an appointment to view the Da Vinci sketch privately before Volkov arrives." "And Stephen?" Emma asked. "He won't be at the viewing. He's at the Hotel Sasha, likely drinking champagne. He'll arrive for the signing at midnight. You have a 30-minute window to inspect the piece." Emma's hands were cold. "If the curator asks me about my lineage, you tell him you find the past tedious and prefer to focus on the future of your collection," Adam coached her. He was sitting close to her, his presence a solid wall of calm. "Arrogance is the best disguise for ignorance. Act like you own the building, and they won't ask for your ticket." They arrived at the Palais Festel. It was an Italianate palace, imposing and dripping with history. Adam stayed in the car. "I'm a known face," he said. "If I walk in, alarms go off. This is you, Emma. Paul will be your security detail." Emma stepped out. The wind caught the hem of her coat. She took a breath, channeling every ounce of frustration, betrayal, and intelligence she possessed. She wasn't Emma Stewart, the discarded wife. She was Elena Varga, and she could buy and sell Stephen Klein 10 times over. She walked up the marble steps, her heels clicking a sharp rhythm. The guards at the heavy wooden doors stopped her. Paul stepped forward, flashing a black card and muttering something in German. The guard stepped back instantly. Inside, the vault viewing room was like a cathedral. High ceilings, velvet ropes, and in the center, bathed in a spotlight designed to mimic natural daylight, was the easel. There it was, the Weeping Saint. Emma approached it, her heart hammered against her ribs. It was a sketch on yellowed parchment, done in silver point. The lines were delicate, ethereal. The saint's face was twisted in divine agony. It was beautiful. It was breathtaking. And it was terrifyingly convincing. "Countess," a voice oiled with false charm echoed. A thin man with wire-rimmed glasses emerged from the shadows. "I am Herr Schmidt. We weren't expecting a viewing so late." "Money doesn't sleep, Herr Schmidt," Emma said, her voice dropping to a bored drawl. She didn't look at him. She stared at the sketch. "My advisor told me this piece was significant. I am unconvinced." "Unconvinced?" Schmidt looked offended. "This is a Leonardo. The provenance—" "Paperwork is for lawyers," Emma cut him off. She stepped closer, violating the standard distance. Schmidt twitched but didn't stop her. Emma narrowed her eyes. She needed to find the flaw. She scanned the hatching. Leonardo was left-handed. His hatching always went from top left to bottom right. The forger knew this. The lines were perfect. She looked at the paper. It had the correct water stains for a sheet stored in a damp Milanese basement for centuries. It was too good. "The architect," she thought. "Where are you?" She leaned in, pretending to inspect the frame. Then she saw it. Not in the drawing, but in the degradation. There was a tiny wormhole in the bottom corner of the paper, common in old manuscripts. But the ink of the signature, a faint L, crossed over the edge of the hole. If the ink was 500 years old, it would have soaked into the fibers inside the hole if the hole existed then. If the hole came after the ink, the line would be interrupted. But the ink line didn't bleed into the hole's crevice. It sat perfectly on top of the microscopic ridge, meaning the hole was there before the drawing was made. The paper was real. It was old, but the drawing was applied recently, carefully navigating the existing damage of the paper. It was a fake. But the mistake was so microscopic, only someone looking for a chronological impossibility would see it. "Well?" Schmidt asked. Emma turned, a look of disdain on her face. "It's adequate. I'll make a bid." She walked out, Paul shadowing her. As soon as the heavy doors closed and they were in the cool night air, she let out a shaky breath. "It's a fake," she whispered into her lapel mic. "Good." Adam's voice came through her earpiece. "Now the game begins." The grand ballroom of the Palais was filled with the kind of people who ran the world, or at least the people who paid the people who ran the world. Tuxedos, diamonds the size of grapes, and the low hum of deals being struck. Stephen Klein stood near the bar, holding a crystal flute. He looked triumphant. Beside him, Robert Meyer was whispering into a phone. Emma stood on the balcony above, hidden by heavy velvet curtains. Adam was beside her now. He had entered through the service entrance, dressed in a tuxedo that fit him like a second skin. "Volkov is here," Adam said, nodding toward the entrance. Viktor Volkov was a bear of a man, flanked by 4 bodyguards who looked like they chewed glass for fun. He walked straight to Stephen. They shook hands. Stephen looked like a child beside him. "The plan changes," Adam said. "We can't steal it." "What?" Emma hissed. "You said security is too tight. Schmidt moved the piece to a biometric safe immediately after you left. If we try to breach it, we trip the silent alarm. The police arrive. The deal is paused, but Stephen survives." So we're done? No, Adam said. We destroy him publicly. We make him buy his own lie. How? The auction isn't for the painting. The auction is for the rights to negotiate the sale. It's a pretension these private circles have. You have to buy the seat at the table. I don't understand. You are going to outbid Volkov for the seat, Adam said. You drive the price up. You make Stephen think he's about to make double his asking price. He gets greedy. He signs a guarantee of authenticity to the higher bidder, you. And then, once he signs the guarantee, you expose the fake. If I sign the contract, I owe him the money, Emma argued. Not if the contract has a clause about immediate forensic verification, Adam said, handing her a folded document. Sophie Wright emailed this to me 5 minutes ago. She's awake in New York. She drafted a rider. Emma looked at him, stunned. You called Sophie? You need a lawyer you trust. I'm just the bank. Emma looked down at the ballroom. She saw Stephen laughing. He was celebrating her destruction. He was celebrating erasing her. Let's do it, she said. She descended the staircase. The room went quiet. Not because they knew who she was, but because she moved with the lethal grace of a predator. She walked straight to the auction floor. The auctioneer, a British man with a gavel made of ivory, cleared his throat. Bidding for the exclusive negotiation rights for Lot 44, opening at €1 million. €2 million, Volkov's proxy shouted. €5 million, Emma said, her voice clear and cutting through the room. Stephen dropped his glass. It shattered on the marble floor. He stared at her. His face went from confusion to shock to pure, unadulterated rage. Emma, he mouthed. 7 million, Volkov's man countered, looking annoyed. 10 million, Emma said, not breaking eye contact with Stephen. Robert Meyer grabbed Stephen's arm, whispering frantically. Stephen shook him off. He stepped forward. She doesn't have the money. That's my wife. She's destitute. The room murmured. Scandal. I am representing the Fisher Trust, Emma announced, holding up a sleek black financial card. And my credit is verified. Adam Fisher stepped out from the shadows of the balcony. The room gasped. Adam Fisher never attended these events. Stephen looked between Emma and Adam. Greed warred with fear in his eyes. If Emma bought it for 10 million, plus the 50 million for the painting, he would be richer than he ever dreamed. He didn't care who paid, as long as the check cleared. Let her bid, Stephen shouted to the auctioneer. The lady has money. Volkov looked at Adam, then at Emma. He narrowed his eyes. He recognized a trap, but he didn't know who it was for. He signaled his man to stand down. Sold, the auctioneer yelled, to the representative of the Fisher Trust for 10 million euros. Stephen practically ran to the table where the contracts were laid out. Emma met him there. You're sleeping with him? Stephen hissed, sweat beading on his forehead. That's how you're doing this. I took everything from you, Em. You're nothing. Sign the guarantee, Stephen, Emma said, sliding the paper toward him. Full liability. Personal assets attached. If the painting is real, you get your 60 million total. If it's not, it's real, Stephen sneered, signing his name with a flourish. I have the experts. I have the history. You're just a bitter ex-wife trying to spend her boyfriend's money. He signed. Done, Stephen grinned. Transfer the funds. 1 moment, Emma said. She pulled a jeweler's loop from her clutch. Clause 4, subsection B. Immediate inspection. She walked to the painting, which had been brought out on the stage. The room was silent. Stephen rolled his eyes. Oh, give it a rest, Emma. You're an accountant, not a... The ink crosses the wormhole, Emma's voice rang out. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. She pointed to the corner. This paper is from 1490. This wormhole occurred approximately 200 years ago, judging by the edge oxidation. The ink line of the signature rides over the hole. It defies gravity. It defies time. It was painted roughly 3 weeks ago. She turned to the crowd. It's a forgery. The silence in the room was absolute. Then a low rumble began. Stephen's face went white. "You lie! She's lying! She's trying to sabotage me!" Volkov stepped forward. He walked up to the painting, looked at the spot Emma pointed to, and then looked at Stephen. "Mr. Klein," Volkov said, his voice like grinding stones. "Explain." Pandemonium erupted. Security guards moved in. Robert Meyer was already backing toward the exit, his phone to his ear, abandoning his client. Stephen was sputtering, backing away from Volkov. "I didn't know! I swear! I bought it from a dealer in—" "You authenticated it," Emma said, stepping down from the stage. She stood toe-to-toe with him. "You signed the guarantee. You put your personal assets up as collateral. The gallery, the Hamptons house, your accounts. You set me up!" Stephen screamed. "I just read the fine print," Emma said coldly, "something you never bothered to do." "Miss Stewart," Volkov said, turning to her, "you have saved me 50 million euros. "Consider it a gift," Adam said, appearing at Emma's side, "in exchange for a conversation about the Congo mines." Volkov looked at Adam, then nodded once. A respect between sharks. "We will talk." Volkov turned back to Stephen. "You, however, have wasted my time, and you tried to cheat me." "I'll pay you," Stephen pleaded. "I have assets." "Not anymore." Sophie Wright's voice came through the speakerphone of the tablet Emma was holding. "According to the contract you just signed, the penalty for a proven forgery is forfeiture of the collateral to the buyer of the option. That's the Fisher Trust." Stephen looked at Emma. The realization hit him. He hadn't just lost the deal. He had lost everything he had taken from her in the divorce. The Fisher Trust now owned his debt, his house, and his gallery. "Emma," Stephen whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Please don't do this." Emma looked at the man she had wasted a decade on. She waited for the satisfaction, the joy of revenge. But all she felt was exhaustion and a strange lightness. "I didn't do this, Stephen," she said quietly. "You did. You walked into the jet engine because you were too busy looking at your reflection in the fan blades." She turned to leave. "Ms. Stewart," Paul Schneider barked. The warning came too late. Robert Meyer hadn't left. He had signaled his own security. The lights in the ballroom cut out. Darkness swallowed the room. "Grab the girl!" Meyer's voice echoed in the dark. "She knows the architect's codes!" A hand clamped over Emma's mouth. She was dragged backward, her heels scraping against the floor. She kicked out, connecting with a shin, but the grip was iron. "Adam!" She tried to scream, but the sound was muffled. "Hold fire!" Paul shouted somewhere to her left. "Too many civilians!" Emma felt cold air. She was being dragged out a side exit, into the alleyway behind the palais. The door slammed shut behind them. 3 men. Meyer was there, holding a gun. "Smart girl," Meyer spat. "Too smart. You figured out the wormhole. That means you know the architect's signature." "I don't know who he is," Emma gasped, her back against the brick wall. "You don't get it," Meyer smiled, raising the weapon. "Stephen was the patsy. The architect isn't just a painter. He's a printer for the syndicate. And you just exposed our operation to Volkov and Fisher. You're a loose end." Emma looked around. No exit. Adam was inside. She was alone. Or so she thought. A shadow detached itself from the roof of the building. It dropped silently behind Meyer. It wasn't Adam. It wasn't Paul. It was a woman in a black tactical suit. She moved with a speed that blurred in the dim streetlights. A crack of bone, a sweep of a leg. Meyer's gun clattered to the cobbles. The two thugs lunged. The woman dispatched them with two efficient, brutal strikes to the throat. They dropped. Meyer groaned on the ground, holding his broken wrist. The woman stood up and turned to Emma. She pulled off her mask. It was Hannah Lewis, Emma's old college roommate, the one who had dropped out to join the Peace Corps. Or so Emma thought. "Hannah," Emma breathed. "Hey, Em." Hannah grinned, adjusting her gloves. "Sophie called me, said you were getting into trouble. Figured you could use some backup." You're a spy?" "Interpol, Art Crimes Division," Hannah winked. "We've been tracking Meyer for 2 years. You just gave us the probable cause to arrest him. Thanks for that." The door to the Palais burst open. Adam and Paul rushed out, weapons drawn. They stopped when they saw the bodies on the ground and Hannah dusting off her hands. Adam looked at Hannah, then at Emma. He lowered his gun. "You have interesting friends, Miss Stewart," Adam said, sounding genuinely impressed. Emma pushed herself off the wall. Her heart was racing, but her mind was clear. She walked over to Meyer, who was whimpering. She picked up the gun he had dropped, ejected the magazine, and tossed it into a dumpster. She looked at Adam. "I'm not just an accountant, Adam, and I'm done being a victim." "I can see that," Adam said. He offered her his hand. "The jet is waiting. We should go before the Austrian police start asking questions Hannah can't answer." Emma looked at Hannah. "Go," Hannah said. "I'll handle the cleanup. And Em? Nice dress." Emma took Adam's hand. They walked toward the waiting car, leaving the wreckage of her past life in the alleyway. She had walked out of a divorce hearing with nothing. Now she was walking away with $1 billion secret, a new ally, and the realization that she was far more dangerous than anyone gave her credit for. But the night wasn't over, and Adam Fisher still had secrets of his own. The Gulfstream G700 cut through the night sky like a silent silver needle, leaving the chaos of Vienna thousands of feet below. Inside the cabin, the air was pressurized, cool, and smelled faintly of expensive leather and the lingering metallic scent of adrenaline. Emma Stewart sat in one of the cream-colored captain's chairs, staring out into the abyss of the stratosphere. She had changed out of the damp, magnificent gown she had worn to destroy her husband and into a soft cashmere sweater and slacks that Adam kept on board for unplanned contingencies. Her hands, resting on her lap, were trembling. Not a violent shake, but a subtle, high-frequency vibration that she couldn't seem to stop. On the small walnut table beside her sat a glass of amber scotch. The ice had melted hours ago. "You haven't touched your drink," Adam's voice broke the silence. Emma didn't turn. She watched her own reflection in the dark porthole. The woman staring back looked older than she had 24 hours ago. Her eyes were harder, stripped of the naive hope that had defined her marriage. "I'm waiting for the shaking to stop," Emma said, her voice raspy. "I've never seen a man's arm broken before. I've never held a gun, even if I didn't fire it. My body thinks we're still in that alleyway." Adam walked into her field of vision. He wasn't wearing his jacket anymore. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms that were tense with muscle. He looked tired, the lines around his eyes etched deeper by the night's events. He didn't sit opposite her. Instead, he leaned against the bulkhead, keeping a respectful distance, as if he knew she was a compressed spring ready to snap. "It's the crash," Adam said quietly. "Cortisol dump. It will pass. You did well, Emma. Better than well." "Stephen is in a cell," Emma murmured, testing the reality of the words. "Robert Meyer is in Interpol custody. The gallery is closed." "You won." "Did I?" Emma turned her head slowly to look at him. Her hazel eyes were piercing. "I feel a pit in my stomach, Adam. A hollow, sick feeling. Because none of this was an accident, was it? Stephen crumbling, Maya getting sloppy, the timing of the police. It felt scripted. Adam took a sip of his own drink, holding her gaze. He didn't flinch. Chaos favors the prepared. You were prepared. Don't give me aphorisms, Emma snapped, the sudden flash of anger surprising her. She sat up straighter, the trembling in her hands replaced by a surge of heat. You knew Hannah Lewis was Interpol. You didn't look surprised in the alley when she dropped from the roof. You didn't even reach for your weapon until she had already cleared the threats. Adam paused. He swirled the liquid in his glass, considering his next words carefully. I suspected, he admitted. When you enter my world, Emma, the world of high-stakes asset recovery and geopolitical leverage, you vet everyone. I knew Hannah Lewis wasn't digging wells in Sudan. Her travel patterns matched Interpol Art Crimes Division deployments. I knew she was in Vienna. I banked on the fact that if things went kinetic, she would intervene to protect her asset. Her asset? Emma let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. Is that what I was? An asset? You used me as bait. She stood up, ignoring the fasten seatbelt sign that flickered overhead as they hit a patch of turbulence. The cabin lurched, but she kept her balance, fueled by indignation. You sent me into a room with a Russian oligarch and a cornered, desperate man, she accused, stepping closer to him. You wanted Maya to attack me. You wanted him to make a move so Hannah would be forced to reveal herself and make the arrest. You gambled with my life to close your case. I ensured you had the best protection in the world, Adam countered, his voice remaining calm, which only infuriated her more. Paul was 5 seconds behind her. I was 10 seconds behind him. I had a sniper on the roof of the opera house across the street. I would never have let you get hurt. You don't get to decide that, Emma shouted, the sound ringing in the quiet cabin. I am not a pawn on your chessboard, Adam. I just spent 10 years being a prop for a man's ego. I was the trophy wife who balanced the books. I was the silent partner who made the art dealer look legitimate. I walked out of that courtroom to escape being used. I won't trade one manipulator for another, just because he has a private jet and a better vocabulary. Adam set his glass down on a side table with a sharp clink. The calm veneer cracked, just for a second, revealing a flash of intensity that bordered on desperation. He walked over to her, stopping inches away. You think this was about manipulation? Adam asked, his voice low and rough. Emma, look at the data. I have access to the best forensic accountants in the world. I have ex-Mossad spies on my payroll. I could have hired anyone to walk into that vault. Then why me? Emma challenged. Because they don't see what you see, Adam said, gesturing vaguely towards the portfolio she had carried. I watched you for a year. Not just the gallery. I watched you. I watched you spot the fake Basquiat at the Met Gala when the curator missed it. I saw you realize the provenance on the Klein collection was fabricated 3 months before the divorce filing. You have a gift. You see the flaws in the architecture of lies. I didn't hire you because you were Stephen's wife. I hired you because you were the only person capable of beating the architect. Emma stared at him, her chest heaving. The compliment disarmed her, but the anger still simmered. And the bait? The alleyway? A calculated risk, Adam conceded, his shoulders dropping slightly. And perhaps I pushed too hard. I am used to working with soldiers, Emma. People who sign up for the crossfire. I forgot that, until yesterday, your biggest battlefield was a charity auction. For that, I apologize. The apology hung in the air, heavy and rare. Emma studied his face. He looked genuinely regretful. It was the first time she had seen him unsure of himself. "I'm not a soldier," Emma said softly, sitting back down on the edge of the chair. "But I'm not a civilian anymore either. I held a gun, Adam, and when Maya was on the ground, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity." Adam nodded slowly. "The clarity of action. It's addictive." "So what now?" Emma asked, looking around the luxurious cabin that felt like a gilded cage. "We land in New York. I own a gallery I don't want. I have a reputation that's currently being shredded by the tabloids, and I have $50 million of your money in a trust." "The money is yours," Adam said. "Consulting fee, plus a bonus for securing the cobalt conversation with Volkov. That mine closure in the Congo will save thousands of lives. That is worth more to me than a few Da Vincis." "I can't just take $50 million, Adam." "Then earn it," Adam said. He walked over to a secure cabinet and punched in a code. The door hissed open. He pulled out a thick file folder and dropped it on the table between them. "What is this?" "The future," Adam said. "I'm opening a new division, forensic asset recovery. We don't just find stolen art. We track the money laundering networks that the art funds, terrorist financing, cartel movements, oligarch sanctions evasion. It's all hidden in the brush strokes. I need someone to run it." Emma opened the file. It was a list of names, high-profile collectors, museums, banks, and next to them, anomalies, dates that didn't match, insurances, policies that made no sense. It was a map of a hidden world she had only glimpsed. "You want to hire me," Emma said, tracing a name on the list. "I want to partner with you," Adam corrected. 50-50. My resources, your brain. We clean up the market. We hunt the fakes. We take down the bad guys. And we start with the man who made this all possible." "The architect," Emma whispered. "Maya said you knew the codes," Adam said. He was scared. But he was right about one thing. The architect knows you exposed him. You spotted the wormhole. You are the only person who has ever beaten him. He will take that personally." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality," Adam said. "You can go back to New York, sell the gallery, move to Connecticut, and hope he forgets. Or you can stay in the game. You can use your gift to burn his network to the ground." Emma looked at the man who had pulled her from the wreckage of her life. He was dangerous, yes. But he offered her something Stephen never had: respect and agency. She looked down at her hands. They had stopped trembling. "I need time," Emma said, closing the folder. "I need to bury Stephen's legacy first. I need to close the gallery properly." "We land in 2 hours," Adam replied, sensing the shift in her. He didn't push further. "Take a nap. There is a bedroom in the back. You look like you've been through a war." "I have," Emma whispered. She stood up, taking the file with her. "Adam?" "Yes?" "Next time," she said, pausing at the door to the rear cabin. "If you use me as bait, you tell me. I might have had a better plan." Adam smiled, a genuine, tired expression that reached his eyes. "Noted, partner." New York City looked different from the back of Adam's limousine. It didn't look like a prison anymore. It looked like a menu. They pulled up to the Klein Gallery in Chelsea. It was dark. Police tape was crisscrossed over the doors, a precaution until the asset transfer was finalized. Emma got out. She had the keys, the legal ones. "Do you want me to come in?" Adam asked from the car. "No," Emma said. "I need to do this alone." She unlocked the door and stepped into the smell of turpentine and expensive perfume. The gallery was silent. The paintings on the walls, the real ones, stared down at her. She walked to Stephen's office. It was a mess. Papers everywhere. The desk where he had belittled her, where he had hidden the ledgers, where he had signed her life away. She sat in his chair. It was too big, uncomfortable. Her phone buzzed. It was a video call request from an unknown number. She accepted it. Stephen's face appeared. He was in a holding cell, wearing a grey jumpsuit. He looked aged, broken. "Emma," he croaked. "They let me make one call. My lawyer quit. Sophie. Sophie said she's representing you now." "She is," Emma said, her voice steady. "Em, please. You can't let them keep me here. Maya tricked me. I didn't know about the syndicate. I just wanted the money. I did it for us." "You did it for you, Stephen," Emma said. "You divorced me to protect your assets because you knew the investigation was coming. You thought if you cut me loose with nothing, I wouldn't be dragged down with you. Or maybe you just wanted to trade me in for a younger model once you were rich." Stephen was silent. The truth hung there. "I didn't think you'd fight back," Stephen whispered. "You were always so quiet." "I was listening," Emma said. "I was learning. Help me, Em. Please, I have nothing." Emma looked at the man she had loved. She felt a twinge of pity, sharp and brief. "I can't get you out of prison, Stephen. You committed fraud. But," she paused, "I won't burn the gallery. I'm turning it into a foundation for artists who have been exploited. Your name comes off the door tomorrow. It will be the Stewart Foundation." "You're erasing me," Stephen sobbed. "No," Emma said, reaching to end the call. "I'm just correcting the provenance." She tapped the red button. The screen went black. She opened the bottom drawer of the desk. There, hidden under a false bottom, a hiding spot she had watched Stephen use for years, was a small black notebook. She opened it. It was full of sketches, formulas, chemical compositions for pigments. It wasn't Stephen's handwriting. It was beautiful, precise calligraphy. Emma flipped to the back page. There was a note. To Emma. The only one who ever really looked. Catch me if you can. It was signed with a small, perfect architectural drawing of a bridge. The architect knew her. The architect had been watching her. Emma closed the book. A chill went down her spine, followed immediately by a rush of adrenaline. She wasn't afraid. She was excited. 2 days later, Emma stood on the tarmac at Teterboro again. The sun was shining, but the heat was less oppressive. A cool breeze was coming off the Hudson. Adam stood by the stairs of the G700. "So?" he asked. "The contract is drawn up. The office is ready. London, Tokyo, New York, wherever you want to be." Emma wore a white suit, sharp and tailored. She looked like a CEO. She looked like a predator. "I accept," Emma said. "But on my terms. Name them. I don't work for you. I work with you. The Stewart Foundation is independent, and..." She pulled the black notebook from her bag. "We hunt the architect first." Adam looked at the notebook. His eyes widened slightly. "You found his ledger." "He left it for me," Emma said. "It's a game. He wants to play." "And you want to play?" "I've spent 10 years watching paint dry," Emma smiled. It was a dangerous smile. "I'm ready for a little action." "Then let's go," Adam said, gesturing to the plane. "He was spotted in Singapore this morning." Emma walked up the stairs. She didn't look back at the skyline. She didn't look back at the courthouse where she had walked out with nothing but a portfolio and a broken heart. She thought about the woman who had walked into that hearing, quiet, diminished, afraid. That woman was gone. She sat in the captain's chair. Paul Schneider was already in the cockpit. Hannah Lewis was sitting in the back, cleaning a very large, very illegal-looking rifle. "Ready, boss?" Hannah called out. "Ready," Emma said. Adam sat opposite her. The engine spooled up. that familiar whine that sounded like freedom. "You know," Adam said, buckling his belt, "they're going to write books about you. The ex-wife who stole the world." "Let them write," Emma said, looking out the window as the ground fell away. "I'll edit the manuscript." The jet banked sharp right, heading east into the rising sun. Emma Stewart wasn't just a survivor. She was the author of her own story now. And she was just getting started. And that is how you handle a breakup. From a $50,000 settlement to running a global asset recovery firm and hunting elusive criminal masterminds. Emma Stewart proves that the best revenge isn't just living well. It's taking over the whole game. I hope you enjoyed this story of resilience, intellect, and absolute boss energy. If Emma's journey inspired you, or if you just loved seeing that arrogant ex-husband get what he deserved, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next story. We have a thriller coming up next week about a lottery winner who fakes his own death. You won't want to miss it. Let me know in the comments. Would you have taken the deal with Adam? Or would you have started your own business alone? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep walking forward, no matter who tries to stop you. Thanks for watching.